Bestseller this year is 200,000 views, 4,000 clicks, 41 orders, and a 3-to-1 return on ad spend at 3,800 revenue with 1,250 spend. Very low conversion, but I'm hoping to improve it with some infographics and a review image. So Scott, if you see something like this, what are your thoughts? Like, is there anything here that sticks out to you as a problem or a quick way to start off?
Okay. So let me just kind of break this down here. So 200,000 views. I think that's good. That shows there's demand. Now I'm also curious, what time period does it say what time period this is? Oh, my bestseller this year. So is that last year, like 2023, or is that this year current? I'm curious. But let's just say 200,000 views, 4,000 clicks, 41 orders. Yeah, I definitely think like we can increase or we can improve the conversion. And I think, like they're saying, like maybe some infographics. I think a review image is definitely something that I would want to do immediately. So if you already have reviews, what we're talking about here is like taking an image or multiple images and taking the reviews that are coming in and then putting them in those image slots, because that way there it forces people to see the reviews. So I think that's one thing. And as far as I don't know if it's a break even or if they've made a little bit of money, but I'd like to know what were the organic numbers. Okay. You got 41 orders, but what are the organic orders for that year? Because again, that's something we don't look at. If I'm looking at these numbers and let's say it was 41 orders, but the shop did 500 orders, I'd be like, okay, well, those 41 orders probably helped with getting the 500 orders. So 3,800, 1,250 spent, 3,800 in revenue. That's worth it. Is probably what I would look at. So I think without seeing like the keywords that, the clicks, because 4,000 clicks, that's a good number of clicks. And the click-through rate, what would that be, Chris? I mean, I'm throwing you on the spot here. What would the conversion rate?
2%.
2%. So about a 2% click-through rate, which is good. That's good. And as far as the, and what's the conversion rate then at 41 orders?
So the conversion rate would be just over 1%. And that's the thing that really stands out to me here. And again, this is the same problem we were just talking about. We're getting a ton of impressions, a good number of clicks, but are those clicks relevant? If yes, then we have a conversion rate problem. If no, right? So they're showing up for Teacup and we sell really cool paintings or something, then we need to cut those out. That will automatically reduce our ad spend and increase our return on investment. Even though we'll be driving fewer visits, fewer clicks, less traffic, it's higher qualified traffic, which is what Etsy wants to see anyway. So that 1% conversion rate is really the thing that concerns me. Now, if this is just since the beginning of January, is that the end of the world? No, because we're kind of at the lowest converting portion of the year. But based on our previous ads data, we average somewhere between 4 and 5% over the course of the year from ads, even when they're unoptimized and we're just trying to light money on fire to see how much Etsy will show us. So you should have a lot of room to improve that. The question is just which lever do we pull first? The easiest lever is to leave the listing alone and see if we can cut out some of the fat. And if there's no fat to cut, then we have to look at, okay, if somebody's typing in teacup and I sell a teacup, why aren't they converting? That reviews image can go a long way. Better human readable titles, more thorough description. Those are the other things that we would want to take a look at. We clearly don't have a demand issue. What we have is a connection issue. We're not getting people over that last hurdle to convert. And we could easily see we're already at a 3-to-1 return on ad spend. If we get that to even a 2% conversion rate from a 1% conversion rate, we're just printing cash, right? We're then very easily able to go to Etsy and say, double that ad spend, triple that ad spend, and just let it come back in.
I wanted to bring up Sue's real quick. And the reason why is, number one, I mean, it's again, very similar to what we're looking at, just smaller numbers, right? But I did want to say, I believe Sue is going to be coming up for one of our Etsy shop audits. I believe, if it's the same Sue, I'm pretty sure it is. And Sue, we can actually, when we do your Etsy shop audit, we'll dig into your ads. So we can go ahead and do that. And for anyone that's, here, that would like to be part of the Backstage Pass Club, you can go to brandcreators.com/club, or you can just go to join on the YouTube side of things. But looking at this just at the surface, like 9,181 views, 131 clicks, one sale. Same thing. We're going to want to look at the clicks. We're going to want to see if they're relevant clicks. If they're not, we want to turn them off. The one sale, so that means we're just under 1%, okay, on ours. So that is a little low. And again, I would probably be willing to bet that some of those 131 clicks are probably from non-relevant keywords. So we have to turn them off, or they're broad, they're too broad, so that we can tune that up. Okay. And it looks like the sale was for $47. So it sounds like you have a product that sells for a good amount. I'm wondering what the margin is on that, but you spent $30.36. Okay. So you still probably didn't make a profit, but you got a customer. And I'm pretty sure that your niche, you probably have other products that customer can buy. Now, again, this is for this whole year. So we're January, February, we're just into March. That's 2 months. Only 9,181 views. I think we need to bring the demand up. So we probably want to find some products, or we need to find keywords that are related to your product that have more demand. So that's just another observation. But very similar to what we just did, just smaller numbers. Anything you want to add to that, Chris?
The thing that really stands out to me there is, if this is over, 2.5 months at this point, this is more of a demand issue, right? We need more eyeballs to get more data. Is our conversion rate here a little bit low? Yes, but this is not enough information to know that we have a conversion rate problem. What we want to check here is, what is the availability of more impressions? And we can do that one of two ways, including more products, or one of three ways, I guess, launching new products that have more documented demand, including more products, or just increasing budget if we're actually hitting our budget cap. In this case, I don't think we are, because we've spent, 50 cents a day basically at this point over the course of the year. And so I don't think we're hitting a budget restraint. So we would need to include more products or launch more products with more demand. That will get us the data that we need to understand, is the problem with the relevancy of the keywords, or is the problem on the listing in terms of that final conversion rate? Scott, what are your thoughts on 4,007 views, 58 clicks, 0 sales?
Okay, let me go back. I was already going to blurt it out. I think, and how long is this for? Do we have an amount of time?
I think it was this year.
This year. Okay. So we have a demand issue. Obviously, the products that we're selling, it doesn't have a lot of demand if we've only got 4,007 views, 58 clicks. So Chris, do the math for me there on that real quick. What's the CTR on that? What would that be?
About 1.5.
Okay. So not terrible, actually, not bad at all. We like anything above 1% is usually what we look for. But I would look at those 58 clicks, and I would see if I can identify anything that's too broad that might not have. But then also I'm looking at it as it's only 58 clicks, right? There's just not enough, even though you're like, yeah, but 58 people, they came to my listing. They must be interested. Yeah, they might be interested, but they're probably looking or shopping around, or maybe you didn't have a sale running, or maybe they didn't like the image once they got in there, or maybe they saw that you couldn't personalize, like whatever it is, right? There's a problem there that probably could be fixed, but I don't know that I would worry about it yet until I get at least 100 clicks. I think that's my threshold. I need 100 clicks before I start to kind of go in there and, changing things.
Yeah. So just for February, so for 29 days, I guess this year,
okay.
24,000 views, 817 clicks, 4 sales, 4 listings at $10 a day. $544 in revenue, $197.78 in spend. So I don't know why I'm reading that from the tiny comment when it's giant in front of my face, but either way works. So the first thing that I see here is, we're talking 3.5 to 1 return on ad spend, probably pretty good. What really stands out to you here, Scott, looking at this once we move beyond the revenue?
Yeah. So I'm looking at it looks like there's good demand, because we're talking about 29 days here. Okay. So 24,400 views. That's good. 817 clicks is fantastic. I like that. And 4 sales. All right. So again, what is that, Chris? If my math is correct, is that like a 0.5% for the conversion rate? Yeah.
So we have an insane click-through rate, right? We're looking, what is that? 3%, just a little over 3%.
Yeah.
That's awesome. But then we have a 0.5% conversion. And thankfully, depending on what your margins are, we're probably making money with this. But this leaves a lot of meat on the table in terms of can we optimize the listing, or are a lot of those clicks just utterly irrelevant
Yeah.
to what it is that we are selling? And if our conversion rate's that low, that would be the first place that I would look. It's not likely to be a listing problem unless there's a really big disconnect between what people are searching and what you're selling. It's probably that you're being shown for something that's not exactly what people want when they click on the listing.
Yeah, I agree. I think we need to dig into the 817 clicks, and we need to see broad or not relevant, right? Too broad or not relevant, right? So it's kind of like someone clicked, but they got over there like, oh no, that's not what it is. Or it's just too broad that, yeah, they saw it, and you sell a wood sign, but they're looking for a wood plank for a shelf. Okay. And you're coming up for wood. So we'd be like, okay, well, we don't want to just come up for wood. It's too broad. So we want to be more for like wood shelf or, wood sign, like whatever it is. Even at that, you'd want to be like wood sign baby room or something, you know what I mean? Or farmhouse wood sign. So we'd want to show up for that. So that's where I would first want to dig into to kind of see. And I'd be almost willing to bet you're going to find some keywords in there that need to be turned off or that need to be, acknowledged that, hey, these are not relevant to my listing, turn them off. And then I would start looking at, how we can increase the conversion rate.
Year to date, 26,800 views, 190 clicks, 4 orders, $19 in revenue, spend of $49.17. So the first thing that stands out to me, I think, is probably the first thing that stands out to you, which is we're averaging less than $5 per order. Potentially an issue, but is there anything beyond that, Scott, that really stands out to you when you look at that?
Well, I mean, I look at 26,800 views. It's good. That's showing some demand there. And then 190 clicks shows me there's some interest there. And from there, I'm looking at, okay, 4 orders. That's not bad either. I mean, we're talking, that's over, what is that, Chris? That's over 2%, right?
Yeah. The big thing that stands out to me here is just that click-through rate. And that's probably not what we want to hear because we're already spending more than we're earning. But the problem there is product price point, right?
100%.
Versus conversion rate or anything else. I don't have control over that. I can just tell you what I see in the data, right? So when I look at this, I see 190 clicks on almost 27,000 views. That's less than 1%, somewhere in the 0.7% range. So like 0.7%. That would be a concern for me. The other thing that is probably a consequence of this is that we're probably being shown for some irrelevant things. The other thing that we would need to take a look at here is that cost per click seems to be higher than what we've seen on other examples. So what is that? 49.17 divided by 190. So yeah, I mean, 26, 27 cents. That's not average higher. Yeah. But it feels higher, I guess, because of the amount of revenue generated.
Well, that's the problem though, Chris. I think that's the big thing. Like that's the elephant in the room, if you will, right? It's like, listen, I don't think that if you don't have anything else on the back end to sell, you're advertising something for $5. You know what I mean? You have to have something that's like insanely high in like a conversion rate, like insane to make that work. So
if we had 100% margin, we'd have to be converting consistently at 5%, right? Yeah. Not unrealistic. And we, Q4, we've converted 10% or higher in October and November.
But that's Q4.
In 2022 and the first half of 2023, we averaged 5%. Yeah. But we also had higher margins, right? And so that would be for you to break even. The question here is, can we transition this to a place where we're getting people on the back end? And if so, then is it worth it for the lifetime value of the customer? Or is there a way that we can sell higher end products to these customers? These customers are clearly interested in buying things. The question is, can we get them to buy a $20 product at the same rate or even half the rate, right? Yep. So that we're at break even from that point moving forward. And Sherry said, I'm only spending $1 per day on ads. And Sherry, I don't think your issue here is not demand. Your issue here is not click-through rate. Your issue here is not actually conversion rate. Your issue here is straight up margin versus cost of ads, right? Cost per click is going to be 20 to 40 cents in most cases on Etsy. We fall right smack dab in the middle of that. I think it said it was like 25.9, so call it 26 cents. Yep. The issue with that is unless we convert at 5% plus, we're never going to break even. assuming we had 100% margin, and that's before Etsy takes out, their 6.5% plus the other fees, and it adds up to 9.5%. We're never going to break even that way unless we're the highest converting listing on the platform.
Before we keep going here, Chris, I know we're going through a lot of these. We got a couple more here, a few more. If you guys would like to download our Etsy ads guide, it's free. You can just drop ads in the comments, and then we will go ahead and make sure that we send that to you. Okay. So if you want that, it's basically us going through, and actually I've got it here. I'll throw it up on the screen real quick. We have a little guide that we put together. It's 26 pages, and it really gives you our 5-step process. We evaluate the potential, optimize your listing, set a budget, tweak keywords, and analyze the data. Basically everything that we've kind of talked about right here, but you can kind of see, if I kind of scroll through it, you'll basically have everything kind of to go through, setting your budget, when, what to run, looking at the data, ads data is gold. We kind of told you guys that here, tweaking your keywords, all of the stuff we talked about. But if you want a copy of this, okay, all you got to do is just drop ads in the comments, and we'll make sure that we get you a copy. All right. And so that's that. All right. So that being said, Chris, let's go ahead and pull up some more numbers here.
324,000 views, 5,000 clicks, 237 orders, 2,600 in revenue, 1,800 in spend digital products. So even though this isn't that like 4-to-1 return on ad spend that we were talking about, because we are talking digital products here, this is likely to be profitable for Gary C. We clearly don't have a demand problem. We have 324,000 views. What are your thoughts on 5,000 clicks on 324,000 views, Scott? Is that acceptable? Is that okay?
Not really. I mean, sure. I mean, it's great, but I think we can improve that. And I think if we're looking at the views, we have to look at also, okay, those views, once again, are we, here's another problem I see people making, is they're like, you know what? I want to show up for this keyword because it gets a lot of search, but you might be showing up for it. In this case, maybe getting a lot of views, but you're not actually showing up to the right person. So it's one thing to get the views, but it's one thing to get the click. The views tells us that there's demand. Now, if you aren't doing that and you're getting 324 views, then I'd be saying, okay, why am I not getting 7,000 clicks? Well, I'd be like, with that much traffic, you can very easily for like a week test a new image, right? And then we can see, did that get us more clicks? And you can immediately test that. So that's one thing I'd be looking at. And then the clicks, I'd be looking at that to say, okay, those 5,000 clicks, are those the right clicks? We'd be digging into that to see, maybe turn some of that stuff off and maybe saving. Now, in this case, because it is a digital product and you have a very, very low, low overhead, okay, as far as expense goes, and you made money on that $1,800, okay, well, what if we reduce that ad spend down to $1,200? Immediately, you've just pocketed that money. So in this case, it's really, really critical that we look at those clicks. And then we start pruning the ones that were like, yeah, they didn't lead to any sales. Because we can see now on the back end, this keyword got this many clicks, but we got only 2 sales out of whatever, 100 clicks. And you're like, oh gosh, turn that one off. Now you just saved yourself 30 cents a click. That's kind of where I'm going with that, Chris.
Yeah, I think when I look at this, Gary has the opposite problem that a lot of people have. Gary has the blessing of too much data, right? Everybody's like, I've got 5 impressions. What do I do, right? Yeah. This is the exact opposite problem. And the good news for Gary is that he's likely profitable here, just given the fact that it's a digital product. But if we look at this, Scott, we're talking like a 1.5% click-through rate. Not bad, right? Almost 4.5% conversion rate from click to sale and a decent revenue. Now, could we say, yes, sell higher cost products? Yeah, because we're averaging like $10 here, right? But also it's a digital product, so who knows, right? The question here is, with all of this data, we now suffer from an overabundance of information. How much of this data is junk data or less than optimal data? And the reason I wanted to bring up this example is because I think this is actually the opposite of what we're saying for a lot of people, right? Even if Gary says, okay, all of my keywords are relevant, so all of these clicks are relevant, we should still be going in and doing some trimming of the keywords here. Why would I say that? Well, if we're converting at 4.7, 4.5%, right? a lot of these are going to be converting at 1%, 2%. The question we have to answer is our ad spend better spent on those or the ones that are converting at 8%? Well, obviously the answer is 8%, right? So if we can come in and say, even all of those keywords are relevant, go in, look at what the conversion rate is at the keyword level and figure out, can you trim some of that out? And you can either trim them out because they're under converting what your average is, or because they're just not converting at all, there's still some fat in here. We could bring down the overall ad spend, increase the conversion rate by doing that because that budget is better spent on the keywords that are converting at 8%. Increase revenue while lowering the budget. I'm a huge fan of that. So I would be jumping in immediately and looking for anything that's just underperforming the average and saying, does this make sense? Or is this money better spent on another keyword? We clearly have the demand. We have good converting listings. We have all of those things. Now, this is a pure question of where is my money best spent? And this is like the Goldilocks zone, right? This is the place to be if you have this data, because pretty much anything that we can do moving forward is just going to change that margin for